Hi, my name is Bruce Bolger, and I'm the founder of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance and your host for this regular series that we do on best practices in all areas of stakeholder management, customers, employees, supply chain partners, distribution partners, communities. And we don't touch on the environment ourselves, but that's obviously a very important part of stakeholder management as well. And today we're really going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the issue of customer experience, customer service, whatever it's being called. I think that the nomenclature war in itself is a recognition of the major challenges that this field is addressing. And we're going to talk about that today with four people who have tremendous experience in this and who view a customer experience a little bit more broadly than a lot of people might, because it really involves multiple stakeholders. Sadly, today we don't have Erin Armendinger. She's the CEO of Compass Experience Labs, but she had a last-minute conflict. But we do have Graham Hill. He's CEO and founder of Janus SVP, and that doesn't do justice to the many, many assignments that Graham has had. And I think Graham has rolled up his sleeves and seen a lot of the inner workings of customer experience in a lengthy career. We also have Alex Mead, who is frankly one of my favorite LinkedIn posters because of the really honest insights that he makes about the state of customers' experience. So we're going to look forward to hearing from him. And he works with Alvarez Marshall, but he really works for a lot of other companies under beneath that umbrella. We have then Ramon Portilla. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Ramon. But anyway, he is founder of HumanX Insight. He'll correct me when he speaks in a few minutes. And this is a new company based on many years of experience he had with Walmart. And he's located where you can imagine, down in Bentonville, Arkansas. And look forward to hearing from him. And finally, Alan Steinmetz, who I believe founded one of the very first fully integrated agencies that focuses both on the external customer and promises being made and inward consulting, in other words, inward communication. So thank you so much, folks. I'm just going to quickly thank the many, many companies that we support in helping them provide engagement solutions. And always to remind everybody that we are practitioners of this world of stakeholder capitalism, which means we give a lot of stuff away. We pay it forward. So look to us for all sorts of services, information, and whatnot. Oh, a lot of it free. So I'm now going to stop my share, and we're going to get right into it. I'm going to start with you, Alex. So please take yourself off mute. What is the state today? And I'm going to ask all of you this question. What is the state today, if you had to say, generally speaking, of large companies of customer service and customer experience?
It is probably worse now than it's been before COVID, and I think it was better 10 years ago. So the simple dumb stuff we tended to get right 10 years ago. I've had a web chat session yesterday. I'm now speaking to an agent today. Even that is not joined up. But I think the biggest cultural change now has been driven by these people telling you surveys, voice of the customer. And you could talk to an agent who will say, sorry, I can't help you. Phone again tomorrow. And within 10 minutes, you'll be asked for how happy you were with that call. So it's falling off a cliff because the basic foundations of customer service are just completely messed up. And I'm sure we'll talk about why we think that's happened, but it's hopeless. It really is.
Well, we're going to get to that in a minute. And I'll only disagree it's not hopeless, because if you can make money solving it, people will go for that. But that's another story. Ramon, your view generally as of the state. And by the way, I should tell everybody that Alex is in Dubai, okay? And he does business internationally. He's at the Dubai Air Show. So we're getting an international perspective, and we're going to get one from Graham as well. But coming back home to the US, Ramon, your view of the general state of customer service, customer experience today.
Thank you, Bruce, very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. I think there's like three comments I'd like to do about your question, and it's I think it's just we can't ignore the dynamic environment right now. So when companies are saying I need to improve my resolution rate from 72 to 74, well, guess what? 74 is not enough, right? In the short term, all the standards are moving continually, and that's putting a lot of pressure on how companies are addressing even their metrics and standards. The second is obviously the whole physical and digital experience. And people tend to still think as an industry, right? These are my standards for hospitality or retail from customer experience. Guess what? That's not happening anymore, right? These days, you know, I'm having if I'm able to sign a document with financial institutions, why I cannot do the same to sign the IDP for my son in school, right? So customers are comparing across industries, and that's really changing a lot of the dynamics and putting pressure, very heavy pressure on how we address that. And I think the third one, I think Alex was mentioning it, but it's, you know, companies are like saying, I'm going to fix my experience in one channel. Guess what? You have a bunch of other channels and the experience is not the same. So it's an example. I had to fix a problem with Ray-Ban, right? Some glasses, to your point, Alex. I call the guys and call again. Well, I end up just putting a commentary in Twitter, really nasty. And 24 hours later, the issue was magically resolved, right? So customers are finding their ways, but companies are just not getting it.
Well, and we're going to get into why in a minute, because my hypothesis is that they just poor customer service is a sunk cost. They just build it into their bottom line and move on, like they did with quality in the 90s and 80s of the last century when the Japanese taught us a little lesson on that. But Alan, you as a pioneer in inward communications, you've been doing this since, well, you don't want me to tell the audience. Have we made any improvement in those 20 years? The American Customer Satisfaction Index doesn't indicate it. What do you think?
I think, first of all, thanks, Bruce. It's always a pleasure to be on these shows with you, and it's such an austere group of colleagues. So thank you for that opportunity. I think that customer service and customer experience is a high priority for most organizations. It's something they talk about and want to achieve, but the question is really, they really don't know how to do it. And that's really where the gap is. That's one component. Another component is that they talk a good game and they really don't know how to do it. And then they send messages to the internal constituencies that are opposite of what they hope to achieve for their customers. And that's where there's a major disconnect between the employee experience and the things that the employees need to deal with. And then conversely, it has a direct impact on the poor customer experience. That is not a high priority for businesses right now, is understanding the alignments and the gap and the breakdown that exists between creating an environment for the employees so that they care enough to understand and be passionate about what the company wants to achieve, to have a better customer experience. And that's and people aren't measuring that. They're not looking for it. They're not understanding it. And the only piece of research that I've seen that addresses that is really Gallup. And they basically said that when organizations successfully engage their customers and their employees, they can achieve a 240% increase in boost in performance-related outcomes.
Well, I'm gonna stop you right there because we're going to talk more about that. Graham, we're going to get into this whole issue of economics in a minute, but generally, you're in Cologne. I believe you have clients throughout Western Europe.
Yes, that's right.
UK. What do you think? How's it going over in your part of the world?
Well, I did a little bit of research, especially for the call today, and I looked at two things. I looked at the Institute of Customer Services UK's Customer Satisfaction Index from June. That tells us a really quite sad message, and that is that customer satisfaction at 76.6% is the lowest since January 16, when it was 77. Biggest problem being complaint handling, a 7.2% reduction in complaint handling quality. I also looked at the KPMG Nunwood UK Customer Experience Excellence report as well, also just recently published. There, the scores go down from 7.09 to from 7.25, the lowest score since 2014. So huge gaps over the last 10, 15 years. The KPMG Ninward study said that the biggest challenge was a lack of empathy. And part of that was because during COVID, things got a lot better temporarily because people were suffering, they were under pressure, the customer service was markedly improved because they had to do something for all those folks suffering and needing support and service. And in some ways, we've sort of fallen back to where we were before. But I think as already mentioned, we need to return to service basics. I mean, I've been doing service quality since the 1990s. The stuff that we need today is what I always started to do it in that point of time. A lot of my clients today are talking about service quality basics, using models from the 1990s like ServQual and the GAPS model and stuff we all know and love because we're doing it for many, many years. That's what we really need to do, that return to basics, and recognizing also today we have multiple channels, customers expect omni-channel experience. Service agents and service companies like to play with baubles as well. There's lots of new technology, the AI technology, I'm sure we'll pick up a little bit later. But it's a lot more difficult than people imagine. And often the technology we buy doesn't get used as well. I mean, there's a recent report, MarTech in this case, from Gartner, that showed that last year, only 32% of the MarTech we bought was actually used. That's the remaining 68% we're paying for. We're not getting any value from it. And I don't think that's from customer service either.
Well, this is great. So we're going to get into now a little bit about why, but we are going to talk about the prescriptive too. This is not a negative show. We're going to always have constructive. That's the purpose of this. But we have to get to the problem first. And Alex, I think the problem is economic. I think the CEOs don't get it. I think that they simply, I'm older than almost everybody on this show, and I lived the total quality management revolution. And I know for a fact that the major US manufacturers built poor quality into their business model. They simply built it in. 10% defects, that's fine. We're still hitting our profit goals. No one's complaining. Well, obviously the Japanese came along, and somebody earlier referred to standards. I think that was you, Ramon, that standards get raised and then expectations get raised. Well, we know the history. So Alex, I'm going to give you an example, and then I really want to talk about the economics, the money that is being wasted, because that is the headline here. Companies, you're wasting a bunch of money, you're pissing people off, and you're making us miserable, and we don't like you. That's the story here. And I'll give you an example, Alex. I walked into my pharmacy yesterday. Major, I won't single them out, but they're one of the two that's doing the same thing. Long wait, frustrating. The pharmacist said, well, they're only allowing one pharmacist here. They're not basing it anymore on volume. It's just every store has one pharmacist. Well, I asked him, I thought to myself, has that company announced to its shareholders that in order to hit its quarterly numbers and its expectations to the shareholders, we are now making it very unpleasant for all the customers? Now, we're not measuring that. We don't know how it's going to hurt, but it'll help you in the short term because there's only one pharmacist in a store. Alex, isn't that the mentality? If I'm wrong, tell me. I think companies are building waste into this, and they don't even measure it. They don't see it. They don't hear it, and they don't use customer service, so they ignore it. Am I exaggerating?
You're not wrong, but I've lost count of the number of CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, CIOs that are so ignorant and clueless about this whole area. So, and as I said before, it's ironic to me that the customer experience movement that was created 10, 15 years ago has ironically ruined customer experience. Because before that, we had a sales director, a marketing director, a customer service director, IT, there were operations director. And suddenly we're going to create this CX role. It's confused everyone. But do you know what? In every role in the early 2000s, I worked for one of the largest financial service companies in the UK. I increased their sales by 50%, their average value for mortgages by 40%, and coincidentally, they won an award as best customer experience. And I think ironically, what's happened in the last 10, 15 years is people have been chasing NPS. The difference between an NPS of plus 24 plus is
let me just say NPS, Net Promoter Scores. Go ahead.
It's irrelevant. So every role I take, I think about customer service experience. I've spoken about it, but customer service experience is not customer support. And the three metrics I always make sure I improve are conversion rate, retention rate, how many customers were interested in our product, service, or solutions, And if you think about the journeys they go through, often they can't get the information they need. They can't understand the delivery timescales. They can't understand, does this product go with that? That is customer service experience. So I first start with every life cycle stage. Someone who's interested or aware in our brand. Of 10,000 people, how many give up because we have a bad customer service experience? And then of those people that place an order, how many cancel the order because the delivery information is not clear, or the setting up information isn't clear? And then of those people that receive the order, how many return the item or cancel the subscription because they don't understand to do it? So it's actually very simple to me that customer service experience is just put yourself in every customer's shoe for the life cycle stage. So what I interestingly do in every role, when I'm brought in as the CX VP or whatever, I don't actually measure CX. I measure how many customers we're failing to sell to, how many customers we're failing to fulfill to, how many customers we're failing to retain. And CX people don't talk to boards in that language. They talk about, hey, yeah, NPS is going to go up by 4%. Boards don't care a hoot about that, do they? So the latest movement of CX influencers this last decade don't know how to run a P&L. And that is, to me, what a customer experience leader needs to do. And the toughest
stop right there. Stop right there, because we're going to get back to that.
No
and
worries.
this time to you, Graham. So pull yourself off that mute there, because Alex, I'm only cutting you off because we're going to get to that. And because Graham, look what he said here. We're doing this in human resources too, but that's not the purpose of the show. We're tracking the metrics of the process. We're not tracking the outcome. In other words, did they click through? Did they make the phone call? Did they do these different things we want them to do? But wait a minute, isn't it really fundamental? How many customers do we have? Are they actually referring people? Not are they saying they're going to refer people? Are they participating in our referral plan? What is our average revenue per customer? What is our average cost per customer? Are companies really looking at the bottom line impact of the torture they're submitting us to? You're muted.
I beg your pardon. I've unmuted myself. I think that's a very good point. When I work with my clients, what I see often is that they're focused on three things from the past. They're focused on inputs, they're focused on processes, and they're focused on outputs. So how many people we've got doing these things? How does our process work? Although if you think about it, most processes have never really been designed for customers. They've been designed, well, that's not even true. They haven't even been designed for companies. They've evolved over time as things happen, and they become like some messy West Country hotel with a hotel and an annex and a complex and a caravan park. Doesn't really work as a coherent whole. And of course, they're measuring output. So how many things go out of the door? They're not measuring outcomes for customers. So customers have got stuff they want to get done. They come to you to get a bit of help. So help them and work out how you can do that. Understand what the outcomes they're looking for. Give it to them. I mean, customers have got all the money. Let's not forget that. And if you do that, you can do really, really well. And the economics is incontrovertible. So if you think back to the 1990s, we had the service profit chain work from Heskett & Co.
Thank you.
And absolute landmark publications. A book that I used 20 to 30 years ago still applies today. The Institute of Customer Service did a recent report looking at the customer service dividend. And in that study, they found that if you get a 10% higher profitability, if your satisfaction is above average of your sector, your revenue per employee is 114% higher, 100% more than double, effectively. And people will pay 35% more for customer service. And there's a whole load of studies going back over 10, 15, 20 years, including recent ones, that show you make more money by providing superior customer service. You reduce your cost by providing a superior customer service. It's a win for customers. It's a win for the company. It's a win for shareholders. Why they
And you reduce risk.
Of course. And why they do that? Why do they not do that? Well, I think we've already touched on what Alex was saying. Often these roles are either ceremonial. So I'm the head of CX, but I don't have any responsibility or authority over service or marketing or sales or operations or anything else at all. I just have this ceremonial role, so I have no power. And all of those different parts of the customer's journey, where they get what they want out of working with a company, are owned by different people who often don't talk to each other in a way that customers will understand. We end up with this messy the whole this messy chimera of a service. I don't get what I'm looking for, and I go elsewhere after a period of time. And we've all had numerous customer service disasters, and it's partly because of that complexity that we've introduced over time.
Well, I'm going to stop you again
together.
because we're going to get to that. We're going to get to
Yeah.
how we solve that in a minute. So bear with me,
Yes.
Alan. On this, I always my theory is that when there's a lot of complexity, when there's a lot of talk about nomenclature and battles of CX, and all these processes, it's really a sign of dysfunction in general, because it would seem that we're not even getting to the heart of the matter. It's sort of like prison guards discussing how to keep the prisoners safe without really solving the problem of crime. Maybe that's a bad example, but Alan, you've been at this now for 30 years. Everything we know, Graham and Alex have said, and I'm going to get to you for a minute, Ramon, and we're not going to put you on the spot for having worked for one of the biggest companies on earth, and who's really are, we're not going to get into that. But the bottom line is you've got more experience than any of us here with dealing with how a Fortune 100 company views this. But Alan, in your case, why do you think all of these facts are being ignored? Why is all of this opportunity for value creation over 30 years being patently ignored? Do you have any idea?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of ideas. They're all over the place too. I think the primary reason is the board governance and the focus on revenue and shareholder value, and they don't have the formula right in regard to stakeholder capitalism. I know that's your hot button, and they don't understand the component parts of how you come up with the overall KPI to get to that point, and that's a major factor. There's no question. But for me, everybody, when you have a customer experience responsible professional within a corporation, I think it limits your ability to look holistically and in new ways to understand that there is a new formula and a matrix that you need to take into account. Ramon and I both believe very strongly in a broader idea around the human experience. And the human experience really is the alignment between your employee experience, which has to be changed, the customer experience that has to be changed, the vendor and supplier experience, and that has to be changed. And together they create a new environment that I'll let Ramon talk about, which is the human experience. And it really is taking a look at a holistic approach from how you attract your people to what they do in their day-to-day jobs, so they can have a better customer experience for the customer in terms of customer and usage satisfaction with the products and services that the company offers. And there's a huge disconnect between all of those.
Well, guess what? That's the next second half of this session is going to be all of your gentlemen's prescriptions. So I want to just finish up on why, because here's the thing. In my view, we know the solutions. Every one of you, if I hired you, every one of you, I have confidence could help us and create greater value. I think the major problem is, though, is what I think Graham said. We're hiring people for functionary roles to do a process because we're not really viewing it as value creation. We're viewing it as a sunk cost. Oh, we got to have customer service. So meanwhile, if I want to buy something, it's an American who answers the phone. But if I want to get it repaired, I can't even understand the person because she's in the Philippines. So Ramon, and I'm never going to ask you, you proudly worked for one of America's greatest companies. We're not going to get into that. I think that's a company that's demonstrated a real commitment to improving customer service and employee engagement. But so I'm not going to ask you to speak for them, but why do you think that so many big companies in the world are ignoring the value destruction that is occurring the same way they ignored it during the 1980s when they were spitting out cars that half of them were found on the road dead at some point? Well, I'm exaggerating being a New Yorker, but Ramon, why are we tolerating this huge amount of waste and frankly, unhappiness?
I think, I joined Walmart in 2006 when I joined Walmart when Walmart was saying, we want to be like Target, right? And I was working in the insights department, and it was very clear after a couple of research saying, customers don't want you to be Target, right? They want you to be the best Walmart you can be. I mean, which is which is very different, right? And people chase competition like I need to be like this, and people don't get it. And I'm not going to talk about purpose because that's something I'm very passionate about, and we can talk another time. But I think
we're going to talk about that. Go ahead.
When you don't have a clear purpose as an organization, it's very easy that, again, Wall Street start moving you to the right and to the left. And Walmart had a lot of temptations around those things, but was able to stay away from those. But I don't want to miss in the commentary of this something that Alex was saying, which is I will take a very, very specific example. I always talk about retail, about customer experience and sales. I was telling operators, listen, a customer that comes with a shopping list to buy 20 things at Walmart, start buying things. If an employee is not nice, the customer is not taking things from their cart. They keep buying the same thing, right? They're going to walk away saying, I did not like this. The example I was trying to make is some people in business don't understand metrics, right? They think a bad experience is immediate rid of a bad sales, and that's just not the case. That's what in the future I'm very encouraged that companies need to leverage technology to understand customer at the level, like the lifetime value of a customer, because you need to understand the full journey. If we make customers happy along the way, they're going to start favoring us. If we start messing with them, they're going to start losing, right? So I think that's where, again, we're talking about solutions, but I think that's one of the big problems. We don't understand inputs and outputs. And just to give you a final example, right, with NPS, because I can talk, Alex, about NPS a lot, but people don't understand that they need to operationalize the drivers of NPS. Very quick. My NPS is bad, or it's bad in customer service. What part of customer service? Employees are not friendly. And people think, okay, we need to be friendly. I have to go and understand what friendly means in the context. So show me behaviors, right? So operators understand behaviors. So you have to go all the way to understand. It's saluting, it's saying thank you at the end, it's having your store clean. But many businesses just stay in the very ethereal concept, and they pretend someone's going to fix that. Wrong.
Yep. Totally agree with that.
Well, we're going to go into that. In fact, I'm going to let you handle this because, Alan, I'm going to go back around the other way. In my view, let's switch the discussion now. It's 11:30 New York time. Let's switch it to a positive. I'm going to hire each one of you. I'm right now, I'm a CEO of a company, and I realize there's a mess. But I don't know what it is. So, if I'm not putting you on a spot, Alan, I'll start with you. How would you convince me, in a sense, to do it? What are the benefits of doing a strategic approach to customer service, Alan? What are the benefits to my organization? And what do you think are the critical elements for us to be on the path to success? And what are the key metrics? If that's tough, let me know. But those are
those are exactly the kind of questions my clients ask me. So that's great. The first thing I do, frankly, is to ask the CEO, if they have a shared purpose. Why are they in business? And if that's not being able to articulate, and that's different from a mission, vision, values. It's what's your core purpose, and do your customers align with that purpose? And do your employees align with that purpose? And if there is a disconnect between those two, that's really one of the first things that we would want to address. Because when you have that kind of alignment, the outcome is generally positive, and it is there's a greater sense of employee and customer satisfaction. So that's really the first thing. And there's a whole framework and process to get to that. The benefits of when you have that kind of focus around that core purpose is all very clear. You have a greater return customer loyalty. You have greater lifetime value. You are able to measure the metrics of your quality of product and manufacturing to support that. You are able to recruit and have talent. You're able to improve training programs and incorporate technology that is aligned with that. The one example I use over and over and over is Subaru. Subaru's core purpose is to establish an environment of love. You have to wonder, well, what does that have to do with manufacturers selling cars? But they've aligned all of their business processes from manufacturing to selling to dealer networks to marketing and advertising to internal to recruitment, all around that presence of purpose of love. And as a result, you start seeing advertising with puppies that express the quality and the safety associated with the cars that they manufacture and sell in their dealerships. And so there's a variety of different things that people do. There are clear benefits. Now, what we don't get into it, but we don't go into the measurement of the savings of dollars and cents. But that's something that I rely on you, Bruce, to come up with the stakeholders, shareholder capitalism equations to get there. But that's what I would do. Start with a core purpose, make sure that your internal and external audiences are aligned with that, and then start developing process improvement and process design to make sure that you have what we call CEO balance. Your customers who know what you stand for, your employees know what you stand for, and your owners, your shareholders know what you stand for, and that's how you're able to achieve a high performance business over time.
And by the way, I think you developed a term for that about 20 years ago called try, engage. You see,
That's
there's so much wisdom that has not been put into place these decades. Graham, okay, we're hiring you, or no, we want to hire somebody to turn around this mess.
That's fine.
Why should we do it? What are the economic benefits?
Yes.
What are we going to see, and how are you going to do it in a framework summary?
Okay, so I'm going to start by disagreeing vehemently with Alan. So if I look at the work that's been done recently on corporate governance and purpose, what we see is a lot of purpose washing. So, for example, Bebchuk and Tellerita did a whole load of studies, looked at the companies that signed up to the Business Roundtable for purpose a little while ago, and looked at whether they actually implemented any of those.
Oh, Graham, I want to stop you on 1 second because we're getting across international confusion here. I want to be clear. Yep. When he says purpose in the U.S. context, he didn't mean that. I can already tell you he didn't mean that. Okay. We all agree with you. Purpose washing, bullshit. Sorry, purpose. That's okay. I'll have that clipped out. No, what we mean by purpose is the North Star of an organization.
Oh, no. Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay, so but we all agree. Greenwashing, purpose washing is worse than bad customer service.
Two countries separate about the same language, as they say. So the way that I normally do this, I think there's several things to do, but it all starts with customers. So as Sam Walton has apocryphally said, customers have all the money, have all the best ideas, and they have all the money. So I would always start by looking to say, who do I think my target customers are? What are they trying to do when they come and contact us in the first place? What is it they want from us? What jobs have they got to do? And in which context do they contact us? That's one thing I'm going to start with. Start with the customer and understand who it is you're going to be dealing with and why do they want to deal with you? Because they have a choice. They can go elsewhere if they don't like what you have.
Bruce, am I allowed to jump in here?
No. Let's let him finish. And
then the second thing I'm going to do then is look at the other side of the coin and look at the company itself. Look at the products I have. Look at my operating model, how I make money. So there's business model, operating model, profit model, those three elements as well. Pick up the profit model in a second. And look at value propositions. Those two things meet in the middle during contact and communications during the customer service. So I'm going to take those two things and work out, okay, what do customers want to do? What's their journey like? What do we want to do as a company? What's our product pathway like? Our own version of the customer's journey, what we want to do with products. How do they meet them? How do we be able to derive and deliver a superior service that meets both our and customers' needs? Then the fourth thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up this idea of, if I understand the business model and the operating model, I need to understand the profit model. So I'm going to look at where do my costs come from? I'm going to look at where do my revenues come from? I'm going to look at how do I co-create value, sufficient mutual value that the customer's happy, they're getting their jobs done, and we're happy as well. And I have a whole framework of a canvas, in fact, and a whole series of workshops that I typically run with the clients to look at these things one after the other, starting with the customer, then going to the company, then going to where they meet in the middle of the experience, and finally looking at how we drive value, mutual value. One of the things that companies never do, They all have balanced scorecards, and they contain CSAT and customer effort score and NPS. What do they never have? They never have a customer perceived value scorecard. So how are we doing in the world of the customer? You need both to be able to understand how you mutually create value. That's how I tackle this problem.
And one last question that now, and you will be able, I'm going to go back around, and if you want to raise issues or any of you with what other people have said, you'll have a chance to do that. But I want everyone to have a chance to get their full say. So Graham, what are the, okay, I've hired, what am I going to see 3 years later after hiring you, Graham? What impact will there be on my organization?
So first of all, we're going to be focusing on outcomes and impact rather than inputs, process, and outputs. That's the first thing.
Love it.
But that means I'm going to be seeing higher profitability. I'm going to be seeing higher retention of customers. And I make a differentiation between retention, I'm there because it makes sense economically to be there, versus loyalty, which I think is often a bit of a myth. Loyalty is a very complicated emotional construct. Do I have an affinity with a company? There was a study a few years ago by Havas, the advertising agency, that said that most customers would not be at all bothered if 75% of brands disappeared tomorrow. So customers really don't care about your brand by and large, but they care about their jobs to be done and the service you provide and how you provide that service. Do I get the right outcomes? Do I get the right? Is it the process appropriate for what I want to get done? Do you treat me like a person? This emotional challenge thing we talked about in the KPMG a minute ago. Do I have the information I need to be able to make choices? Because I'm on a decision journey. So I'm going to see improved customer satisfaction. I'm going to improve loyalty and retention. We're going to see improved profitability. I'm going to see reduced costs. More than my benchmark, I'm ex-Toyota, so my benchmark is 25% reduction in costs. I'm going
Well,
to
you know what I like about this this process, folks, just like with total quality management, when that revolution came about, there was no one way to do it. Okay, the ISO standards, there's a roadmap, but there are many, many different ways. And the great choice is that you'll have different companies with different perspectives, but all leading toward one thing, true value creation and not checking off the boxes. Alex, okay, and I've followed you for 10 years, so I think I already know the answer, but one thing we know, if we hire Alex, we're not going to get he's not going to tell us what we want to hear. That I know. So Alex, how would you approach an assignment where you're brought in by the CEO to clean up the mess? What's the value proposition to me? What's the framework you're going to use, and how am I going to measure the outcome?
Okay, so first of all, I'm talking from real world examples, not hypothetical. I read it in a nice textbook example. So this has worked for me in logistics, in financial services, in distillery and spirits, in travel. This works for me. So the first thing I do, I don't take a role, because to fix customer experience, you need to own all parts of customer experience. So the first thing I do is establish the mandate. And the mandate is, as I said earlier, okay, I am responsible in your company for making every customer and prospective customer get the experience they need to buy, to retain their order, keep their order, stay loyal, and order again. So to do that, I need to own your people that look after the website. If someone has a question about a potential flight, a potential bottle of whiskey, a potential parcel delivery, I need to own the teams that deal with every question about what time is my parcel coming? Why is my parcel not here? You say you tried to deliver it, I wasn't in. I need to own the teams that deal with every aspect of the pre-sale customer service experience, the sale customer service experience, and the post-sale customer service experience. So as Graham pointed out earlier, you can't have a product team over here dealing with digital self-service. That needs to be part of my world. I don't just want the contact center. I want the guys that design the apps, the knowledge management, the AI, the CRM, everything to do with the way a customer gets an outcome that they want for their need. And clearly that's not the language you use to a CEO. To a CEO, I will say to them, so I doubt you're aware right now how many prospective customers come to your website, your app, walk into your stores, phone your call center, who give up because of bad customer service experience. So first thing I will do is I know hand on heart already, without looking at it, I can improve that metric. And then secondly, I'm fairly sure that you get a 10, 20, even 40% return rate if it's a physical product, or cancellation rate if it's software, because of bad customer service experience. And then finally, I'm fairly sure that customers who, after they've received something, have to complain or ask why it's gone wrong, I can do that better than it's currently done right now. So Mr. or Mrs. CEO or Miss CEO what I can guarantee for you is two things. You're going to get more customers in the door, but also it's such an ironic state of, it's a statement of fact. Better customer experience is cheaper. I can reduce your operating costs by 40-45%, and I've done this. So would you like to have more customers buying from you, more customers paying more customers staying loyal at a cheaper rate? Of course you would. So I think I've spoken less than the other guy, so I'll keep going as well. So the two frameworks I have, and I've spoken about these for, I think, 12 years now. To me, it's so simple, and everyone has complicated it. Customers and prospective customers need epic service experience. Easy, personalized, intuitive, and contextual. Just think of those four words in every experience we have. They're not, you rarely get those. But for employees to deliver epic, they need time. They need the time to focus on Bruce Bolger. I don't care there's customers there, or it's not my role to the resource plan. I need information. I've missed my flight. What options do you have for me? My parcel hasn't arrived. Where is it? They need empowerment to fix it, and they need motivation. So the difference I have to most of these CX practitioners and consultants is I will join an organization, I will report to the CEO, and I will say, right, I want to own all of those aspects of customer service experience. And those teams report into me. And I like going into an operation and seeing 2,000 miserable, no morale contact center agent. I say to them, it's a new world. I'm not measuring you on contacts or average duration. I'm measuring you on owning and resolving customers' issues and prospective customers' issues. And that the comfort zones, when I say, and do you know what? You can say to Bruce Bolger or to Graham, I don't know the answer. Leave it with me. I'll go find out and I'll call you back. And if you think about it, every company, the big, hugest companies, they will literally say, I can't help you right now, but I'll raise a complaint for you. No. You don't tell a customer to phone back in 2 days. You don't say, I don't have an answer. You need to have an answer, and you need to not tell the customer to phone back. You need to tell the customer, I will own that issue for you and get back to you. And as you said right at the start, how many of us are just giving up on huge brands now because they don't care a damn about us? So you have to take, but as I started, the starting point is you say to a CEO, I can give you more revenue, more loyalty, and more retention at a lower operating cost.
Okay, hold on
Yeah,
now, because Ramon, I'm going to come to you because this is a great segue for Ramon. Ramon, you and Ellen have been talking a lot about human experience. And I think really what this is another framework for what Alex is talking about from a different perspective, and that is a holistic approach. Really looking at everything from the human perspective rather, how many companies have you worked for, gentlemen, where you hear everybody talking around what they want to sell? This is what they want to price it for. These are the product attributes that they want because it's good for them. It's like a guy building a house. I want to sell it for $10 million. It's a great house, but there's nobody there to buy it. So Ramon, tell us a little bit about your framework that you're the human experience and how it, unless I'm incorrect, is an approach to addressing the holistic approach that Alex has been talking about.
Right. Thank you. It is, I would tell you, it's fascinating in my years of experience when I've been trying to understand customers and how, their journey. Then I had the opportunity to work and activate programs with Walmart, and Alan was a great partner with associates. It's fascinating the similarities of the journey, right? We talk about a new customer. Well, we have a new employee. We onboard a customer. We onboarding an employee. We want to retain the customer. Exactly. We want to retain the employee. We want the customer to come back. We want the associate not to leave. The parallelisms are just amazing, right? And what happened is companies start putting the pedal on the improving of the customer experience, right? I'm going to invest on this. It's going to be more smoother. Think about the call center, Alex, that you mentioned, right? We fix the call center so the customer calls and we solve the issue. We have employees that have a call center for their issues. They're put on hold. They don't return the calls. So the call center experience for the employees is pathetic. Right. And then we expect the employee, which is the front line, to deliver service to the customer when they are not giving it. That's the framework I'm talking about. Companies needs to connect the dots of the customers and the employees, right? And here, the challenge, I want to challenge HR. HR needs to step up and not necessarily only be thinking through the lens of their world, because they have so much more to contribute. I actually think they need to be the ones pushing metrics that prove the revenue or the the growth for employees, and not just the cost aspect of it. And my final comment, because there's a lot that has been said, just gonna tell you about fascinating examples, right, of reality, right? We talk about purpose, and companies have to set a purpose, right? With COVID, we hired a lot of people. Company hired a lot of people working remote. How many companies that the first thing they do when they hire their employees is putting them not a month, not a week, 3 days on the field? You work for Walmart, you are now going to be spending 3 days, 1 week in the stores, right? So DoorDash, for example, has just announced that anyone that joins this company has to be delivering for a month.
That's
you don't have any
great.
other responsibility. You go and mess up with that. I mean, there's this great leader from Walmart US called Greg Foran, right? And he left Walmart US and joined New Zealand Airlines on February of 2020. February 2020, CEO of New Zealand Airlines. In a month, the guy shut down, his business. What you see the guy doing, 6 months after that, he was serving. He was flying the plane, serving coffee, talking to customers, right? And if you don't see the high leaders of a company, doing and connecting with customers, it's just not going to work. This is why it's so critical. You have to live your values. You have to show the customer is centric, and so your employees. But I will leave it there for.
Well, no, but that's terrific. And so, Alan, we are getting toward the end, and we're always constructive here. And there's room for tons of point of view. There was something that Graham said that, I know you take a very holistic view. Was it something that Graham said that got you a little agitated? What did you feel he was missing, or maybe he addressed it later?
Well, yeah, it's both, with all due respect, guys, both Alex and Graham, is when you take a look at a perspective of the customer experience and the product developments and satisfying the customer alone, by and large, you're going to fail. You have to, that's the old school, in my opinion. The new school is having a much more broader, holistic approach that really does have a balance, a shared balance between the employee engagement and experience, the supplier experience, and the customer experience. So I'll give you an example locally here. Wayfair is an e-commerce houseware company.
We know them.
And,
we know them.
Yeah, and they were focused on just growing revenue, and they signed a contract with the federal government to sell furniture and beds to the immigration. And the employees, 2,500 people, walked out of the store because the millennials and the individuals that they hired refused to say that that's not consistent with our purpose as a company, and we're not going to work for a company that's going to sell beds for immigration on the southern border. And so they basically put the company down. And it wasn't until the leadership realigned themselves to be aligned with the core purpose of why they were in business in the first place that it made a difference, and they had a backtrack. And so there's an example. In the case of Walmart, save money, live better. If you walk into a Walmart today, well, based on a lot of the work that we did there, it's all about everyday low prices. If they work hard to bring the price down, then ultimately, and that's what your job is all about. That's the passion that you have as an employee, and we're going to train you to do that. It's going to have an impact on saving money and living better for the customers. So I'm a very strong advocate and very passionate about having a balance between the customer experience, which I get is what Graham and Alex are talking about, but it really is the supplier engagement as well as the customer engagement as well. And I think that companies or consultants or advisors who promote one component of it are making a big mistake, and it's old school.
Well,
Bruce, if I may
I'm
come back.
going to give Graham. I'm going to give Graham an opportunity to
Graham
address that,
first, and me. Yep.
and then I'll go to Alex.
So I don't disagree with anything that Alan has said. Those of us brought up in the 1990s with service quality and the service profit model, for example, that's driven in large part by employee behaviors, employee satisfaction. So I would never, ever think that I'm only going to focus on customers and ignore employees. In fact, I include them in the operating model part of the model that I use. So it's not a case of either or, but it is actually interesting. I remember reading a little while ago around some work, Bradley Gale wrote about AT&T, and he said that originally, I think it was the 1990s, they had three broad values that they would measure: the EVA, economic value, PVA, people value added, and CVA, customer value added. When they had a bit of difficulty, what did they drop first? PVA. When it continued and it didn't get any better, what did you drop next? CVA, customer value added, leaving EVA, economic value added, behind. So it is, we're facing a situation where management often is focused on shareholder value, or at least their own equivalent, bearing in mind that management isn't necessarily focused on shareholder value per se, but on their own value through their own structures and architectures of payment. Often employees get forgotten, often customers get forgotten. In the real world, running a big complicated business there's a trade-offs. I can give price reductions to customers, then I might have to have a pay cut for employees, or a lower, more keen pricing for suppliers. So the art of business is making complicated and often dynamic trade-offs so that most people get enough of what they want to be happy, but you can only have one core drive, core stakeholder. In my world, whether you like it or not, that's the shareholder. And
you're raising an interesting point.
I'm a child of Milton Friedman, so I'm going to be focusing on the shareholder, but I recognize I can't do that without keeping employees happy, other stakeholders including the regulator and government and society more general, and of course, employees.
Well, there are different types of investors, and we can get to you, Alex. Remember, there's that short-term investor who just wants his money, the short-term day trader. He or she could care less about anybody, right? But there are other types of investors, and I think there are more of them, that are looking for more sustainable returns. They want to park their stock, like my mother-in-law did, or my grandmother-in-law bought a whole bunch of stock in 1951 in Xerox. And when she died, oh my gosh, was everybody stunned to see how wealthy that woman was. So there are different types of investors, Graham, and I think the types of investors out there are changing as well. And this is where purpose comes in, not greenwashing purpose, but when you have a trade-off, when you have a clear purpose, clear organizational purpose, you can at least explain your trade-offs, like Airbnb did. Airbnb had to lay off everybody after COVID, but they got everybody back because they had a clear purpose, and it had nothing to do with greenwashing. We're all with you, at least I am, Graham, on the greenwashing issue. In fact, we have an article about it today. Alex, your response to this issue about taking a holistic approach, I think I already know what it is, but please share it.
Yeah, Alan. So again, like Graham, I don't disagree. In fact, I support your argument completely. And so I've had roles where I'm not a CX advisor or consultant that sits in a room and advises. I'm typically the guy that is brought in, as you said in your analogy, hypothetical situation. The CEO says things are screwed. Alex, you're in charge. I've had that role 5 or 6 times, and I've had a role where 12,000 employees have looked at me, and attrition rate's been over 100%. There's been no empowerment, no information, no motivation, no time, the 4 letters I've said. So I'd never, ever think I'm going to improve the customer experience without that being the first perspective. So a couple of examples are a logistics company in Europe. 12 years ago, we had 74 depots, 3,000 people delivering parcels, 1,200 in contact centers. Officially, the contact centers reported into me from day one. But I managed to change the entire model that said every parcel delivery driver is going to be focused on a new world where they successfully deliver the parcel. They don't say they tried to deliver. And we found out 50,000 times a day they were trying to deliver, but not going anywhere near the address. And that caused grief for the customer service agents who would get the complaints. So what did I do? I started with a North Star. And Bruce, this is what was missing in nearly every the North Star. And we're going to put customers at the heart of everything. If anyone puts that on a poster, I'm like, you are so not going to do that. Don't even come up with that slogan. But our North Star was, we are going to deliver your parcel safely and securely every time. we're going to give you an estimated time when we're going to deliver it. And if that doesn't work for you, we'll make it easy for you to contact us. I said this in 2010. And Graham, I'm sure you know parcel delivery in 2000. This was like, people looked at me like, Alex, you crazy? That was our North Star. I worked with the CEO, the CTO, the CHO, everyone. This is what we're going to do. And if we do this, we are going to clean up in logistics in Europe. Okay, Alex, okay, we like it, but my God, it's impossible, right? So I then took every aspect of this mission. It's a mission. I knew it would transform this company so much. 3,000 delivery drivers. Why were they pretending to deliver 50,000 times a day? So my customer service staff and I went out and delivered parcels with a delivery driver. As per your point, we got delivery drivers to sit in our contact centers, and we realized, okay, 30,000 times a day, they say they try to deliver because they have too much pressure from the depot managers to do 75, 80 drops per day. And if they go to that place 12 miles away, they'll fail. So they just press a button, they pretend. And 20,000 times a day, they say they try to deliver. They don't have the information from the retailer where the customer lives. So they just say, try to deliver. And basically, that North Star became the glue for everything. And I remember going into the contact centers, the customer service centers, where they had a 97% call abandonment rate, average speed of answer of 2 hours, email 6 weeks old. And I came up with this, guys, this is what we're shooting for. Alex, it'll never happen. It will happen. You got to help me make it happen. You have to engage, but the North Star vision. And I've done that with airlines or travel. I often fail because you don't get the support you need, but I will always start with, here's our aspiration. And if my metric isn't, of course, it is shareholder return for Graham, of course, because that's how we get our bonuses. But my metric is, do I walk into an operation with hundreds, thousands of customer service, customer experience employees feeling better about their lives, their jobs, their roles than I join? And actually, the very last point.
Well, I have to stop you really, Alex.
Okay.
Time, and I'm going to give you each one more thing to say, and you'll end. Ramon, how optimistic are you that we will finally move to where the paradigm in businesses is that customer service and customer experience is a major source of value creation and a major opportunity to get more value in a relatively short term? Are you optimistic that that light bulb is going off, or are we going to have 20 more years of saying the same thing over and over again? Short answer for each of you.
I'm optimistic. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm not going to give up. And I know not everyone is going to listen. The narrative, but that's fine, right? And that's what's going to make some companies better than others. And I would only say, and I know it's going to be not because it's the terminology or what we're talking about these days, but I am a believer in this humanity aspect of the experience, and it's going to be in the center. And I want to be also encouraging companies to really leverage technology, right? I honestly think Gen AI is we're all afraid about it. We're talking about like how scared that is. And I just think it's our choice. Do we want to lead with it from a human angle, or we want to be scared about it? And I think this is how we should be leading, right?
One optimistic message, Alan.
I agree with what Ramon said. I think with the growth and the influence of Generation X, it will evolve to be more focused on the customer experience, but it will start with employee purpose rather than the customer experience.
And you, Graham?
So I agree with both Alan and Ramon. I think it's going to get better, but before it does that, it's going to get worse. So it's been going down. It's been going down. We need to break that fall of customer satisfaction across the board, no matter where it is. It has to get worse before people realize it can actually get better. My belief is the catalyst for improvement is going to be two things. It's going to be focused on the service experience rather than the customer experience. So that delivery of service, the heart of all the experience we go through anyway, and it's going to be powered by artificial intelligence. We have to learn our basics before we can get cracking with the really stuff, the human differentiators that people talk about. But I think that's what's going to drive that those new things coming in will provide a new impetus to do things in a more effective and more cost-effective way, which will allow us to achieve the outcomes that we're all looking for customers, for employees, and for shareholders.
And thank you. And Alex, you get the last word.
So I'm optimistic, but because it has to happen. Whether us old fogies or the CX leaders of the world think it's going to happen is irrelevant, because the younger generations will not tolerate anything other than being able to say, And as Graham pointed out, the technology and Alan pointed, the technology is there. So if in 5 years they can't just say, "Hey, Walmart, have you got a pair of trainers, red size 8? I want them tomorrow, and deliver them to my office, not my home." Or "Hey, Amazon, that package you said was going to be here in 2 hours, where is it?" If they can't do low effort interaction, natural language, data, voice, they will give up. So companies have no choice other than, and you think about the model we have now, we are so far from that. It frustrates the bejesus out of me, but we will get there because customers will not tolerate anything else.
Well, what a great answer, gentlemen. Thank you so much. A lot of great meat. Thanks for listening. We're going to have this up on our library probably within the next week. This is really great wisdom in here. And I thank all of you for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you, Bruce.
A pleasure.
Pleasure.
Have a great day.